Like if you're going to be running ads, you want those people to multiply, and the best way to do that is with buddy system. We make a different Loom video every time, and not so. Like we got one video, and this is a deeper thing that I've kind of talked about in our mastermind, but outreach to me is the equivalent of like digital door knocking. What's up, everybody? I hope you guys had an awesome New Year. I hope you guys had an awesome Christmas. Some cool shit happening out there in the world, and you guys are at the forefront of so much of what's happening. I love the way that you guys have the capacity to drive worthwhile businesses and shit that matters in the world, and you guys are doing a fucking awesome job. Just a quick little announcement before we get rocking and rolling. We are doing a workshop for those of you guys who wanted to do phoneless sales acquisition. And what will, more than anything, what we'll be doing in that process is pimping your offer so that your stuff can be sold just through a little hand raiser, which is like a 1 to 3 sentence post or ad. People come to you, say, I'm interested. Then you have a little short text, copy and paste a link, and then you just wake up to Stripe and I'm in. It is a stark change from those of you guys who've been doing all the phone calls, all the outreach, all the chasing, which I've done, by the way, so I understand those of you guys who are doing it. These long phone calls to hopefully get a few clients and all these 60-minute unnatural sales scripts and all that. So if you guys are interested in that, I do have, I want to say 3-4 spots left. I have to check for sure, but when that's full, it's full. So if you guys are interested, I've made it pricing-wise, by the way. I'm like seriously giving it away because I want to work with you guys. I really dig that stuff. So if you haven't already, check that out. Let's get into the good stuff here. Let's get into the weekly Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. Questions are getting better over time. So Jake says, working with a gym right now, they're struggling to get people to show up for their consultation meeting. People are booking into the Calendly, filling out their information and qualifying questions. We have reminders set, but a 90% no-show rate. Anybody experienced this before? What solutions did you find? So firstly, Jake, before I tell you anything gym specific, you're probably going to want to buy Gym Launch Secrets by Alex Hormozi. There's nothing in the gym space that these guys haven't already figured out. Having said that, we've had this problem in a few niches that even if you get people to show up, you're depending on a personal trainer to be able to sell their stuff. And as a general rule, they're shit at it. Local businesses in general are always like really shit at closing their stuff. So one of the things that we've worked on in our mastermind is actually selling the thing. They're join for like $29 a month or $79 a month or whatever it is. Doing that as a front end offer and closing them into that without the phone call, without the consultation, and skipping all that. And what happens is then you're able to just bring your clients, especially right now, while you're in the middle of like all these New Year's resolutions and people just join gyms. It's just that time of year where motherfuckers be joining gyms and shit. So rather than working so hard at like trying to get these people appointments, which they're generally going to fuck up anyway, is focus on using your ad and your offer to sell the thing right away to get people to join the gym without all the consultation and things like that. There's an assumption that these consultations are needed, and they're really not. For those of you guys who are Go High Level users, we actually have a phoneless acquisition thing as part of our bonuses if you sign up under our link. But having said that, like, this is the biggest thing is like, stop working so hard with trying to get appointments for people who can't close them anyway, and focus on making the offer, because ultimately people know when they're coming for like a gym meeting booked appointment, they know it's a fucking sales meeting and they know they're going to experience a high pressure thing. It's actually, you would probably be better off just giving them a free pass to check out the gym one time, or 3 free passes to come to the gym, and then having reminders to join the gym full time after they've actually physically come in there. I think you would actually experience a better result with that. Colton said, just landed a gym. What are organic campaigns you're running to get people in the door? Man, we got all the gym questions today. I know which niche to help you guys with. So here's the deal with gyms, and this is true of a lot of these kind of things. Is like martial arts and anything that's like classes and exercise and yoga and Pilates and getting in shape. Is selling these kind of programs and services are largely done with community-based selling. And I'll tell you why this is important, because our minds as marketers, as online marketers, go right to the solution is either a Facebook ad or a Google ad or a TikTok ad, a landing page and a consultation and a booked appointment. And that is not how gyms are like typically sold in real life. In fact, we got a thing in our mastermind, something I call the buddy system. And the buddy system is really, really simple. The way you sell gyms hasn't changed for like 100 years, which is if somebody comes in the door as a client, you give them 3 to 5 passes to give away to friends and family. And inevitably, some of those friends and family will join. And then the other thing, why I said community-based selling, is events, right? So we have friends in I have friends in like New York State who have 30 different martial arts studios, and they offer free events. Come learn this karate technique so your kid can beat up the bully, or so your kid will have some discipline. And then they have at the event, they sell, come join my program. And then once you join their program, they sell hey, get a guaranteed black belt. It's $5,000 or $10,000. But it all starts with a free event. Come check out my shit. So it's no different for a gym. Come check out my New Year's lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months, whatever, right? So you want to bring people in for these events instead of doing what everybody else is trying to do, which is ad, landing page, consultation. That works really well for like high-end consultative kind of selling. But for gyms, it's community. You want to think, like if you're going to be running ads, you want those people to multiply. And the best way to do that is with buddy system. And then use the ads to promote the events and bring the people in. Because most times, once they get people in the door, they can actually like handle what to do with them to a certain extent. But they don't know how to do like consultative selling like we do. So like trying to force that model like the previous question was asking just doesn't work. So if you do that where you have events and then you have ways to multiply the people once they come to the events, then your ads are going to work way better. It's one of those things like, I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, but if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So if you know how to run Facebook ads, you're going to think that the solution to everything is Facebook ads, and it's not. That's not the right way to grow every business, unless you're using it to drive to events and multiply those people with things like buddy system kind of coupons and gift certificates where they can bring friends and family. And that's how you sell gyms, my man. Aroni. Hey everyone, I have a client who tried running a Facebook campaign to get downloads to his dating app. He ran a mobile app installs campaign with a bid strategy set to the highest volume of link clicks. Attrition was a 7-day click or a 1-day view, and targeting was lookalike audience based off of anyone who opened the app before ages 22 to 40. Locations were Miami and New York, and he said he got no downloads, wondering if there was a reason for this. Yeah, Aroni, you're in a fucking saturated ass market, right? Like, I don't think people wake up and say, well, what I need is a dating app. There's a gazillion of them. So my question to you is like on the creative side, like what's different? What's a niche about this? And there's all kinds of dating apps. Maybe it's just like the hookup app, or maybe it's the like Match.com where we ask you a gazillion questions so we can find your perfect partner, or maybe it's like eHarmony like that, or maybe it's niche like, hey, I've seen like weird sexy stuff, whether that's, their orientation, gay hookups, or they want to do threesomes or whatever. But there has to be, my point is, something different and desirable about it. If you just run another Me Too app and another Me Too offer in your space, it's not the ads. I know everybody will tell you, like, change your targeting, blah, blah, blah. But it's more than likely, it's not that fucking interesting of a hook. And if you change that, you'll probably get people into it. Anthony says, does anyone have a recommendation for a reporting tool that pulls data from social media accounts and ad managers into one report that is easily digestible and can be sent directly to the client? Ooh, Anthony, this is a good question. So let me backtrack a little bit for those of you guys so that everybody listening to this can get some value from this question. When you are reporting to clients, What people have a tendency to do is send these long, drawn out, confusing reports. And what you really want to do is just show people like 3 to 5 numbers that show it's working, and show that all in one place so that they can easily wrap their head around it. I've only ever found 3 ways to do that. So there's a whole bunch of folks that are using agency analytics. I am not an agency analytics user guy, but a lot of people speak highly of it. So there's option number 1. Option number 2 is I've seen people do this with custom Go High Level dashboards where they integrate Go High Level with all those different social media and then pull it together in a custom dashboard. That is way number 2. And I use way number 3, which is I just have a virtual assistant for like $2-3 an hour go and compile this data for me and put it all in one place. And that's my favorite way to do it. I'm a low tech guy. I'm sure it's probably actually better if you do it the other 2 ways mentioned, automated. But what I want you guys to understand is if you're trying to show a client, I experienced this for years. So I used to create custom SEO reports, and they were a lot of fucking work. And then I eventually switched over to tools, and they would generate charts and graphs, and inevitably clients would say, cool report, buddy. Now what the fuck does this mean? And so I would have to go call clients and chase them down and like talk about like, okay, well, these are the 3 to 5 things that matter, so let's just talk about that. And I've realized it's so much better just to talk about those 3 to 4 things. I'll tell you the best report that we've ever done, and this is how we do it now in our agency, is we cover 4 things, okay? And you can do this in about 2 to 3 minutes, and I do this in a Loom video, or sometimes we use Screencastify, which is just like Loom videos. I say, here's what we're doing for you, here's why we're doing it, here's how it's going, and here's what's coming next. So when we start a video, it's like, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's how it's going, here's what we can do next. So if you do that, like you can just go, hey man, I just want to give you a little quick update. Here's what we're doing. We just launched the Facebook ads. We just launched the TikTok ads. The reason why we're doing that is because we want to create this omnipresent campaign. So when people visit your website, that your law firm is seen by them over and over and over and over and over again. And we follow up with them for super cheap. Here's how it's going. We're getting clicks over here for this much. We're getting clicks over there for that much. Based on your average conversions rate, we probably got about 5 cases this month. It's hard to tell because I don't follow it all the way through to your phone call. I'm just ballparking a little bit, but that would mean that we made about 30 grand this month. And what we're planning to do next is we're going to be adding the Instagrams. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. That's the whole video, right? So here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's how it's going. Here's what's next. If you do that, by the way, like your reports get way easier and clients actually understand what the fuck you're doing for them, and they're happy to pay for it when they understand what you're doing for them. Our man Johnny says, hey guys, how would you respond to a new client that just got their first roofing lead from our TikTok ads but is unhappy because the lead was crappy? Apparently the lead never clicked on our ad and doesn't need a new roof. 2 things, Johnny. Thing number 1 is I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if they're already like expecting to be a millionaire from their first lead, you're probably going to have a pain in the ass client. Sorry, dude. So I just want to be real with you. Real talk is they're like, why am I not a millionaire from my first lead? Second thing is, this is actually an expectation issue in disguise. So I want you to go back a step before that. There's an awesome book, by the way, over here called Upstream. And you don't necessarily have to read it. I'll save you. By Dan Heath. And he says, any sort of recurring issue we have in business is almost, you're experiencing the symptom, but it's happening further up in the system. And so in your case, if a client's getting a lead and they're like, why am I not a millionaire? When you set the expectations, like, this is the expectation I would probably set in your scenario. It's like, if every 10 leads you get, you might get 2-3 good ones. There's going to be some that are bad. There's going to be some that are good. I want you to follow up with all of them regardless. And if you do that and you use your system, 2 to 3 leads for an average like commercial roofing job, that's like might make you 100 grand. You'll come out way ahead in this. But what I need for you is to work these leads and understand that they're not all going to be good. I don't have control always over which ones are good and bad. So if you do that, what you'll find is later upstream, they'll be cooler with you. Having said that, if a client, like I've experienced this in a lot of different niches, usually when clients are like, I got my first lead, why didn't they like just hand me money? they're usually going to be a bad client because they lack the sales systems to even know what to do with your lead. Because if they don't understand, like, some leads are good, some leads are bad, and you got to work them. If they don't understand all that already, then chances are they're not going to be able to close, even if you send them a million leads, and you're probably going to have a bad client on your hand. But having said that, use this as a way to improve your expectations upstream. And what comes after that will be easier in terms of managing that client. You'll find the whole thing gets happier. This was our man Arsum. This wasn't necessarily a question, but I just wanted to comment on this. He says, if anyone's struggling to get clients, follow this message sequence. Message number 1, hey, company name, are you able to handle more? And then it says kind of product or service, client orders example. Hey, Jason, are you able to handle more residential cleaning jobs right now? When he replies with a yes. Message 2, okay, I've recorded a quick 3-minute video that shows you how you can book more of those. Would you mind if I send it here? When they say yes, you follow up with them and say, ask about their current progress. What are their monthly targets? How do they expect to achieve them? The CTA is to book a meeting if they're satisfied with your offer and interested in working together. Awesome. Okay, so this is some badass stuff here. So firstly, by the way, when people write messages or cold call, which is the same, I learned all this stuff from, by the way, from a guy named Ari Gelper. But when people write messages, there's a script that most people follow unconsciously that gives away that you're a boring ass salesperson, and it goes like this. And they do this, like, they learn this from cold calling, but it goes like this. Hey, my name is Frankie, and I'm calling from company XYZ, and the reason I'm calling today is because ... So before you've even opened your mouth to say what it is you have for sale, you've already, like, put up all their sales defenses. What Arsum's doing here in the opening message, which is one of the ones that we actually teach here in the group here, is you're asking, can they handle more of something they want, right? In this case, he used the example residential cleaning jobs. It is the residential cleaning jobs they are saying yes to, not your service, right? It's the outcome of your service they want more of, not the service itself. And so he's asking them, can you handle more outcome? Can you handle more result? Can you handle more of something you want? And if you start the messaging there, then he says yes. Now, message 2 is they say yes, and you go to, I made a little video on it. Why? Because most people then jump into the, hey, let's book a meeting and talk. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but meetings, especially for successful people with money, represent a time risk, represent an energy risk. Like if I just said yes to everybody who requested 60 minutes of my time, I would literally never fucking get anything done. I have enough incoming requests. And so as a busy, successful person, I have to filter that shit out. Well, that's what our clients are doing too, right? So when he says a 3-minute video, it's a low risk. It's an easy way for them to check it out on their terms. And then he'll notice the conversation doesn't go to me and my service and my product, which is where most people go. In other words, do you want to buy my SEO? Do you want to buy my Facebook ads? Do you want to buy my TikTok ads? Instead, he says, tell me about your goal. Tell me about what you're doing. Tell me about what you're building. And that is the template really for how to have any sort of winning conversation is, hey, do you want more of this outcome? I gave you a low-risk way to check out the details of the offer and see if it's a fit for you. Tell me about you and what you're trying to do in your business. If you use that as a framework to have conversations, you can close a lot of shit very, very easily and have very relaxed, low-key conversations. Because it's not really about you, right? You're having conversations about cleaning jobs and their business and what they're trying to do. And you'll close a lot of deals and you'll do it very, very easily. Even better than that, by the way, is I would take that messaging from outreach and use it in a group, like a one-to-many format, and say, hey, we figured out how to get residential cleaning jobs. Who's interested in watching a 3-minute video? And get people to go, me, and then you can have like 27 conversations at once. And if you're good at that, like, which it seems like you are, you can actually close like 10 clients at once. So I'm going to be teaching more of that. We're going to be actually talking a lot about that in our Loom workshop for those of you guys who are interested, is getting people so you can have like 10 sales conversations at once and be able to close, 2-3 of them at a time. Without like having to get on a call with anybody, just sending them videos. So if you guys are interested, I still got a few spots for that. Anonymous says, I love when you guys post anonymously. I always assume that you're on Zoom, naked and pantsless. No, I'm just messing with you guys. Okay, Anonymous says, "Hey guys, I was thinking of using elai.io. That's an AI tool. I'm not familiar with it. It has a human AI that does all the talking for my Loom videos. So instead of recreating videos every time, all I have to do is change the name of the company on my script in PowerPoint. What do you guys think?" Here's the deal. Okay, so a lot of people think that like when we create Loom videos for clients, that like when we're in our sales process, that we make a different Loom video every time. And not so. Like we got one video, and this is part of a deeper understanding that I wrote about here in the old fancy pants books called Beyond the Agency Box, is understanding that I want my marketing assets to do my converting, not my sales script, and not because sales are not leverageable. You have to continuously do phone calls. As where a video is leverageable, like once I get that video converting, I can drive eyeballs to the same video over and over, and it'll predictably create conversions and sales and new clients, especially if you're getting the right people to come out the other side. So I want my asset to do the heavy lifting. The only time I make custom Loom videos is in two scenarios. Scenario number one is if I have a new offer and I'm customizing, like I'll usually customize it the first 5 or 10 times I do it, just to get all the details dialed in and see the feedback and stuff like that. And the reason I don't go straight to automating it is because almost always there's an objection or two. And so I don't want to automate it before I've got it working. But once I notice, like, for example, like we launched a retargeting ad offer last year, and I got a lot of clients who say, "Oh, well, I already do retargeting." And I was like, well, if you look at the video, like what you guys are doing is like 5% of what I'm talking about. This is like holy next level shit. But once I realized that, I address that in the video, and then I can automate the video because I know what objection they're going to have beforehand. I say, hey, in the video, I say, hey, you're probably doing retargeting already, but you're doing about 5%. Let me show you why this is like 20 times bigger than what you're doing and 20 times more powerful than what you guys are probably currently doing. And I explain the differences to them. And then I'm just sending one video over and over. So having said that, if you want to make personalized videos for everybody and you want to use AI to do it, I'm sure you could. Like, I'm not discouraging you. But I would say, like, get one video converting that you can then drive people to over and over and over. The best way to do that, by the way, is an example case study where you just say, let me show you what I've done for someone else and what I can potentially do for you. Or if you don't have that, let me show you what I'm going to do. Here's my plan. Here's how the system works. Here's like kind of what we expect out of that. But having said that, like, I don't want to recreate videos over and over. The whole point of this is to be kind of lazy, right? Like, we want to make sales the lazy way. And we want to, like, manage clients the lazy. I shouldn't say lazy. We want to manage the energy efficient way, which means that we can do stuff that works one-to-many. That's the real changes. The way most people do sales is one-to-one. You got to spend an hour with somebody and talk. And when you have a converting Loom video, or when you have any really converting asset, you can do it one-to-many, right? I can send 20 people to my Loom video at the same time, right? So what I'll typically do is, like, when I'm trying to get lawyers, I'll go into a lawyer community and say, hey, we figured out a way to do blank. Who's interested in seeing it? And then I'll get a bunch of people go, me, and I'll have 20 conversations, and I'll send out the same video 20 times, and we'll get, 5 clients to come back through it and just sign up. And we don't have to do all this like chasing because my video is doing the heavy lifting. So this is a different understanding of like the game and what we're doing, but we want our assets to do that, the heavy lifting. And the key to making that work is having the offer do the selling, not us doing the selling. The reason why most people have to work so hard for sales, and I'm not judging because I used to work very, very hard for my sales, is because I was doing the selling, but when the offer does the selling, like it's very much downhill. I actually, I think it was Jaron from our group. Jaron described it as he had an offer that was hard to sell, and then he did some of the stuff we were talking about, and he said, oh my God, what a night and day difference. It's now like I'm swimming with the current. Before I was like, sales were like paddling up the current, and now they're not. And when you do that, it's a lot easier. Mark, my man, excited to talk with you tomorrow. He says, what would you recommend we do for the best outreach methods for prospecting with the Loom videos? We're going to go over that in the video, Mark, but I'm going to tell you the best prospecting is not to do any outreach at all, to be honest. And this is a deeper thing that I've kind of talked about in our mastermind, but Outreach to me is the equivalent of like digital door knocking. And you know, because like back in the day when people used to sell stuff, and I used to actually do that. That was my first ever job. I was 15. I sold chocolate bars for the blind. So I knock on the door and you hold up a chocolate bar and say, "You want to buy one of these?" And you know, like if you do that, like if you knock on 10 doors, three, four people buy a chocolate bar, and six, seven people either ignore you or politely tell you to fuck off, kind of thing. And if you do that all day long and you knock on a gazillion doors, you sell some chocolate bars. And there is a way to do that. But what we want to do that I think is the least understood part of this Loom process is that we want to sell our stuff one to many. So like, for example, there's a guy in my legal space named Michael Mogul, who some of you guys will recognize because I did an interview with him. They've got a $50 million video agency, and they put on a giant ass conference in Atlanta. So they actually sold out the football stadium full of lawyers coming to see a conference. Arnold Schwarzenegger was there, and Gary Vee was there, and they had David Goggins. So like, just imagine Arnold go like, "Come on, come to my legal seminar, do it." So to me, if I'm going to knock on doors, I'm going to knock on Michael Mogul's door and say, "Michael Mogul, I have a cool thing that will benefit your lawyers. Can we show it to him?" And I'll effectively knock on 10,000 doors at once. So we're going to get into that in the workshop, is how to knock on 10,000 doors at once and also acquire expert status. Because the other thing is when you knock on doors, it's hard to convince people you're an expert at it. As where if they see you, "Oh, he's with the $50 million video guy, he must know what the fuck he's talking about," then all of a sudden, like, they've come to you and it's a very different positioning. And you can sell, like, the other thing is when I knock on 10,000 doors at once, I can enroll like 50 clients at the same fucking time with one damn video. So we're going to reverse that paradigm. I'm not against doing outreach, by the way, but I think it's the least energy efficient way you can possibly do this. And so we've got, you know, two different ways to do it, basically. One is through organic stuff. One is through outreach or paid ads, and it'll depend on your market and your situation for which one you want to do. But in essence, what we're doing is in like what I call an offer summary, which is a 1 to 3 sentence explainer. So like to wrap your head around this, like let's say, for example, like for like 2-3 years, our offer was we'll get you motorcycle cases for injury lawyers. And the reason they value that is it's what I call the $100 bill. It's an expensive outcome. It's like a high value thing they want. When you have that in place, this high value outcome, all I have to do is go to a group of injury lawyers or go to an injury lawyer influencer and say, "We figured out how to get motorcycle cases. Who's interested in watching a video that explains how it works?" And they go, "Me, me, 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 me." And the reason it works is because they want the outcome. And so like I can literally just go into a group and say, "Who's interested in getting motorcycle cases?" And they'll go, "Me, me, 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 me." And then I go, "Okay, can I send you a video about it?" And they say, "Sure." And then I send a video. And that's it, right? So I want to help you guys reverse this paradigm where we can do our selling one to many and not one-to-one door knocking, the least energy efficient way possible. The whole point of doing these Loom videos is to make your business more energy efficient so that your sales process, and the deeper reason to do this, well, I'd say 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is it actually brings better quality clients because it keeps your expert status intact. And the second reason to do it is, like, I don't know about you guys, but when I was doing all the outreach and chasing and all that kind of shit, like, I had no time left over to actually fucking serve clients. Right? Like, you're so busy chasing them that when you get them, like, it's really hard to fulfill on it, right? Especially like when you, like, I've gotten, you know, my agency, like, more than a couple of times to 100 plus clients. It's like, it's really hard to fill on 100 plus clients when you're spending 5 times as much chasing clients, right? Like for us, that meant like, you know, going to conferences and outreach and proposals and all that kind of shit. Like that, all that shit takes time and energy. As where if you do it energy efficient, where you just put one little hand raiser out there, people come to you, you have a little 30-second chat and send them a video, then you're able to energy efficient bring clients in. And then you can focus on actually having a world-class deliverable and you know, making it simple and easy and badass. And so that's where I want to bring you. So we're going to get into that in the workshop. We can talk about that tomorrow if you want. But the short answer is what I call a hand raiser. And a hand raiser is a 1 to 3 sentence summary of the offer. And I learned this from a mentor years ago who very wisely said, if you cannot sell your offer in 1 to 3 sentences, adding more follow-ups and emails and landing pages and automation and video won't change that fact, right? So we don't want to like make it complex before we got it working. So the beautiful thing about the 1 to 3 sentence hand raiser is we'll know whether or not our offer is going to work, right? So if I say who wants motorcycle cases and I get crickets, like adding 47 follow-up messages and ads and funnels and book here and appointment reminders, like it's not going to change that, right? So I want to know as fast as humanly possible. The flip side of that is if I say who wants motorcycle cases, and as actually happened, within an hour I've got 10 people saying me, like chances are you're going to be able to sell that. So we're going to reverse that paradigm and make the sales be energy efficient and to be honest, skip the outreach in general. Josh says, team, anyone have a good lead magnet LP template they can show me for inspiration? LP meaning landing page in this example. I'm going to use my agency client startup Zap as my free value and looking for some good examples with which to inspire my own landing page. Thanks, peeps. I'm going to give you some like the cheat code for landing pages for those of you guys who are building them. And I think the person who taught me the most about landing pages is a very smart Facebook ads marketer named Nicholas Kusmich. Some of you guys will know him. And Nicholas said, the best way to demonstrate your business can actually help your clients is to actually help them. Which is a crazy novel concept, right? Like most marketers, we're looking for like the secret word combination or the magic script. But if you focus on creating a landing page that is giving something that actually helps a client. And so he has an acronym because I think people misunderstand what's actually valuable to a client. And so what most people do when they create landing pages is either they give away shit or the opposite is they make these like 300-page ebooks and they pour their heart and soul and it takes them a month to create. And he said what you want your landing page to do is to give away something, SAGE. And SAGE is an acronym that stands for short, actionable, goal-oriented, and educational. So I'll give you an example of one of these that we used in the legal space and crushed it for years. We found after just like talking to a gazillion lawyers that the thing that worked the best for them over and over and over was referrals. Like if I talked to 5 lawyers, 80% of them got all their business from referrals and not SEO and not Facebook ads and not all these other things, but mostly from referrals. And then you would ask them like, what are you doing to make those referrals happen on purpose? And for the most part, the answer you got was nothing. And then I would talk to some of the bigger and more successful law firms, and what I found out is they had, lo and behold, referral systems. They sent out newsletters. They put on their emails, we appreciate your referrals. When they would send mail, they would put stickers on it that say, referrals are the highest compliment you can give us. We appreciate referrals. When they would answer the phone, they would say, if you don't mind me asking, who referred you, right? They would they would do all these things. And so we made a 1-page PDF that had 26 different ways you could generate referrals. And they were broken up into 3 parts, things you could do before they became a client, things they could do during the period where they were a client, and things you could do after. And it was just 26 things. But again, it's a checklist. You can read it in 10 minutes. But you'll get some value out of it. So it is short. It's 1 page. Like a lot of times we think, like, how many of you guys got a PDF that's been sitting in your fucking hard drive that you've been meaning to read for a year and a half and just never got to it? So short, it's an instant gratification thing. It is actionable. You could take one of those 26 ideas and do them, right? Like you can put a, hey, we appreciate your referrals at the bottom of your email. You can start doing that right away. It's goal-oriented, right? It's going to help you get more referrals, and it's educational, right? So I'm a big fan of just like the simple little 1-page checklist. And if you do that, if you create a little 1-page checklist that's short, actionable, goal-oriented, and educational, and then you create a landing page to give it away, it's going to work more often than not. So people are always trying to look for like magic messaging, but what made it work is that it's actually a really fucking valuable download for a lawyer because they're getting referrals and they're not doing anything on purpose for it. So that's one example. But if you want to create landing pages that crush it, that bring people into your world, Sage it up, Buttercup. John says, would you rather have 2 $25K per month clients or 20 $2,500 per month clients? Why? There's arguments for both, John. I actually think most people would say I'd rather have like $2,500 a month per client because It's less risk. Like if you have two clients for 25K a month and one leaves you, guess what happens? Like you just lost half your income. But I'm at a stage in my agency where the opposite is true. I just want we're actually like that's our goal for this year is I'm working at having about a $2 to $3 million per year agency with count them, 5 clients, all revenue share kind of deals. And part of this is I know how to keep people. I know how to identify what makes a good client. And even if they left, I could replace them with relative ease because the longer and longer I do this, the more I want less moving pieces, more efficiency. I just want to hang with my kids. Like I'm not trying to build the Inc. 500 world's greatest fucking agency. I just want a cool lifestyle, hang with my kids. So if you guys have similar goals, I would say focus on like less but better all the way through your agency. Although I'm not saying that is for everybody. There are merits to do both of those. It really just depends on where you're at in the journey and also like how competent you are. Like in my case, like if I lost a $25,000 per month client, I'd just go get another one. I wouldn't be too worried about it. But not everybody's in that situation where it would be that easy. So, I mean, like I said, there's reasons to do both. I hate to give you the lawyerly, it depends. If you ask a lawyer any question, the answer is always like, it depends. So I hate to give you guys an it depends, but it depends on where you're at in the journey and what you want out of it. John says, what do you believe is the single top measurement of the size of an agency? Gross income, number of clients, total value of services under contract, profit, headcount. I guess it depends who's asking, John. Like, if you're trying to sell your agency, those are all the most important numbers they're going to want to know. Like you mentioned, how many clients, how many contracts, what's your recurring revenue? And of course, the one you didn't mention, what are your profit margins on all that? But for me, there are hidden metrics inside of an agency, and I think people miss these because they're not obvious. So Nick Peterson calls this MKP, which stands for my kind of people. And I think this is such an underrated metric because if you build an agency with clients that you don't really like and don't really enjoy, your happiness and fulfillment is going to be very low. Ask me how I know that. And I have friends who have like $4 or $5 million agencies per year and they're fucking miserable and they'll never tell you that public facing. But I know because I built those kind of agencies that they suck. And if you build your agency with MKP, my kind of people, it'll be easier. It'll be more fun. It'll be more fulfilling. So that's the first thing is that I actually look for because to me, the whole point of this is to actually get some sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and enjoyment from your work. If it is only a means to an end, and for all of us, to a certain extent, it's a means to an end. But if it's only a means to an end, it'll make you miserable because like for I don't know, like 7 years, I built a SEO agency. We had a lot of clients and a lot of moving pieces and it was economically very viable. Like we made a lot of fucking money, for lack of a better term, shitloads of money. And I fucking hated every minute of that agency. And the biggest reason is I was doing work with people I didn't like. I didn't particularly enjoy doing SEO. I didn't particularly have a whole lot of love for my team. Like I appreciate them. They were cool people. But I didn't wake up and go, I can't wait to do SEO today. And so the biggest piece that was missing from that is the MKP. And if you nail the MKP, the my kind of people, your whole business will get more fun and more enjoyable and you'll be better at it because like, for example, like I have clients right now that I literally only talk to them with wrestling gifts. So like I grew up in the 90s and 90s, 2000s attitude era. I don't watch wrestling anymore, but like in the 90s and 2000s, like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock going, you better, if you smell what The Rock is cooking, right? So that kind of shit is hilarious to me. And I have clients who are into that too. And so we literally talk like that. We have, like, it's fun. We laugh. We tell jokes. And we're talking like lawyers who make, $20 million a year. And we're talking with wrestling gifts. So MKP to me is actually, if you're going to build a lifestyle agency, is the most important metric. And so if your business is bringing you misery and you're not enjoying it, almost always it's MKP, is you don't have your kind of people, or you're doing work you don't enjoy doing just because you're good at it, or just because you can make a buck at it. Those two things. But if you fix those two things, you get your kind of people and do the kind of work you're gifted at and enjoy, like business becomes actually so much easier and more importantly, more fun. And what will happen is profits and all those things you talked about will inevitably come out of them. Jack says, how did you land your very first client? Almost by accident, Jack. I was actually, so this was a thing, right? Like I got into all this lead generation and shit by accident. A friend of mine reached out. We were selling a real estate course, and I was like the SEO person, and I was like self-teaching myself how to rank this website so we would make millions of dollars and all that shit. And one day somebody came and offered me money to buy the thing, so I sold it, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I was talking to a mortgage broker friend of mine in Toronto, Canada, and he said, "Yeah, I'm buying these mortgage leads online, but it sucks because I pay $40 a lead, and they sell the same lead to 20 other mortgage brokers, and so you got to be really fast." And I quickly did math in my head, and I was like, $40 a lead times 20 people, they're selling a single lead at $800. So I went literally into the mortgage leads business in 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm in the mortgage lead. And the only thing I knew how to do was SEO. And I built up this SEO business. And at the time, I built up this SEO mortgage thing, and it turned out nobody wanted it. The business I considered to be my greatest failure, mostly because I could have tested the idea, but it took me a year to rank it, and it made exactly $0, and lots of reasons why that failed. But it really humbled me because my first business worked out and my second did not, and I kind of thought like I had this magic touch after the first business. And so I decided like I knew nothing, and I took 20 ideas, so 10 times 10, and I just said, I'm going to try 20 ideas, and I'm just going to, whatever one works the best, I'm going to roll with it. And so I, for different reasons, tested different ideas. And one of the ideas I tested was selling backlink packages in internet marketing forums. And I did that for like 2 months. And they always sold over and over and over and over. Like people bought them and people bought them and people bought them. And they're mostly just automated, shitty, spammy links. But whatever, I was selling them $50 to $100, $200 kind of thing for these backlink packages. And then one day a guy said, "Hey, can you do SEO for my website?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And I knew how to do it for my own stuff. And I didn't know it, but he was like a big plastic surgery web designer, and he had hundreds of clients. And so when that worked out, he started giving me more and more and more. And I had my first white label deal. And so my agency blew up from this white label thing. I was the white labeler, and it didn't even have a term at that time. But I kind of stumbled into my first client by accident because the backlinks package just turned out to be the thing that sold and led into my first client. So I don't know, I don't have any advice for you. And like for those of you guys who are trying to like model that, because I did it by accident, but there's lots of ways you can get clients on purpose, which is, choose the right niche, figure out what those people want, and offer them the thing they want. And figuring out what they want is a listening process. Most marketers skip this process of using the ears, and they make it immediately harder because they sell something the market doesn't want. They sell like another, like I mentioned, 800 times in the book, Me Too offers. Jeremy says, "Hey guys, I'm curious. I'm making more video content. What are some SMMA questions you have that I can answer in a video?" So here's the deal, Jeremy. I would not answer questions willy-nilly. All right. So I look at this in the agency space because I have a kind of a pulse on other groups. Like I'm part of a lot of other agency groups, for example. And what I notice is there's a lot of groups that are like way fucking bigger than mine, like 10, 20 times. And they're so much less engaged. And I can tell they're doing so much less commerce and they're doing so much less business. To me, what's really, really important is what I mentioned earlier is the MKP, is that you're answering questions for your kind of people. So I wouldn't just answer questions randomly. I would look for like, what are your clients asking? What are they asking during sales calls? What are they asking in groups? What are they posting on their timelines and those kind of things? Because if you do that, you'll answer questions for the kind of people you want to bring in. And that part is really, really important because there's a hidden metric in all of this that says, are the right kind of people coming through the system? And if you don't pay attention to that, I've had this before, like, so give you an example of when you do this wrong. So I remember there was a period I was running like live retreats before COVID, doing like little masterminds. And because of all the travel restrictions, I had to close that business down. But there was a period where I was getting 8 to 10 sales calls booked every single day. And most of them were the wrong people. And so for different reasons, I couldn't close those people. But if you looked on the surface, our click-through rates were kicking ass. We were getting appointments booked left and right. We're getting calls. And all of the metrics say everything's working except the wrong people are coming through the system, right? So that's why I say that's the hidden metric in all of that is I would rather have one fucking hand go up that's the right person than 100 of the wrong people. And I've done that both like firsthand. But if you understand that, like you ditch what everybody gets caught up in is these vanity metrics, click-through rates. Like is 10 booked appointments better than 2? On the surface, yes. But what if those 10 people are fucking broke? and the two people have like obscene amounts of money, and you can do $100 million a year worth of business with, right? Those two appointments are going to be better. Like if you have one sales call booked with Grant Cardone, that's probably going to be better than if you have like, you know, 10 sales calls booked with broke ass plumbers, right? Single operator plumbers with no money. So you want to focus on like driving the right people. And so that means asking the right questions. You'll notice this. I notice that if I check out other agency channels, and the videos and the comments and the questions that crush it the most are always like, what to do if you have no money, and what to do if you're broke, and how to start if you're a beginner. And they make up lots of volume, but they're mostly attracting like broke people. So you'll notice like on my stuff, there's way less views, but I don't bother answering those questions because I'm not like intentionally trying to drive broke people. And I don't suggest you guys do either. And that's not a judgment against people who are broke. Like we all start out from zero. I was broke when I started this business. But I'm just saying like they don't generally make good clients. So you want to focus on what makes a good client for you and what questions are those people answering, and then answer those. I wouldn't just ask randomly, what questions can I answer? Zach, my man, Happy New Year's to you too. He says, hey, Frankie, how much maximum did you see a lead gen agency website sold for? Probably 100 grand is the most I've seen. Trying to think if I've seen more than that. Probably not. I'd say 100 grand. I've seen a lot of stuff in the $40,000 to $100,000 sold for lead generation stuff. And usually it's not about the lead generation website. Again, it's about who the website is for. So I've used this example lots, but it illustrates the point. So when I broke into plastic surgery SEO, there was what I call the 800-pound gorilla, which is the big player in the market. There's always like one or two of them. In this case, in the plastic surgery space, it's a company named MedNet. And what was crazy to me about MedNet is they used to sell $40,000 websites to plastic surgeons. And the craziest part to me was the plastic surgeon did not own their own website. They're paying the price of a car for a website, and they don't fucking own it. They would give them a 2 to 3 year lease. And I was like, a 2 to 3 year lease? Are you fucking kidding? And then they would have to rebuy it. And I was like, why are these plastic surgeons paying? And they weren't even great websites. They were good, but not great websites. And I was always like, why? And the reason is really simple. Because plastic surgeon, an average patient, one, is usually worth like 15, 20 grand to him. So the plastic surgeon thinks, if I just get 2 people over the next 2 to 3 years, I'll make my money back. So a lot of times when you see lead generation websites selling, it has more to do with what kind of leads they're generating and less about the fact that it is a lead generation website. I'll give you another example. There's a lot of boring ass industrial kind of shit where like if somebody sells their super fancy lift system, they might make $40 million selling it to like 20 different factories. And so those kind of leads, you're not going to get millions of them, but they're super crazy high valuable. And so if you've got a lead generation website that's selling expensive, boring ass industrial shit, then don't be surprised if you can sell that website for 100 grand. And it has nothing to do with the fact that like the website's so awesome. It's the value of the leads coming through the website. That's why I say like if you focus on the right types of people, it's such an important metric. But I meant more as like an exit, like how much max an agency sold for as a whole business. Okay, selling the business. I mean, usually, so when businesses sell, like typically, and I don't know if you've read. Let me see if I can find it. No, I don't see it right now, but Built to Sell by John Warlow, somewhere in my book collection, it's there. And one of the things he talks about is most agencies, by the way, are not sellable as is. Like if you tried to sell your agency, I'm not saying you, but just like people out there, 9 out of 10 agencies cannot be sold as is. And the reason they can't be sold is because they need the owner to run and they don't have a predictable deliverable system kind of thing. And the key to doing this is like to tell is like, if I walked away from my business for 3 or 4 weeks, what would happen? And if the answer is it would be bigger than when I left, you've got a sellable agency. And if the answer is it would fall apart in a million pieces, then you don't have a sellable agency. And so it's usually an issue of like sales and like SOPs and systems and all that. So it runs without the owner. So that's the first thing is most agencies would get 0. Like for real. If I talk to 100 different agency owners, 95 of them would get zero for their agency from anybody trying to buy that. Having said that, it's very typical, depending on the business model, to get 2 to 20 times the multiple of whatever that business is generating in a year. Agencies are typically 2 to 3. So that means if you're doing like $1 million a year, you can probably sell your agency for like 2 to 3 realistically if you want to get out of it. And usually, by the way, the reason they're sold, because if you're actually considering selling it, the reason they're sold helps to understand is almost always is because they're trying to acquire your client base. So it's almost always going to be somebody in your niche already, or somebody who has a complementary thing. Like, for example, let's say there's I mentioned earlier, Michael Mogul. He has a $50 million a year video marketing agency. So they sell tons of like super high-end videos to lawyers. They sometimes make packages for like $250,000, and they'll make massive amounts of videos and stuff for lawyers. If he's buying an agency, he probably doesn't give a fuck about their Facebook ads or their SEO. He just wants to acquire their client roster so he can sell them some videos. Right? Hey, you're doing SEO, you're paying for marketing. Why not get some videos from us too, right? So usually, almost always when an agency is acquired, it's from somebody who has a complementary thing as well. That helps to understand, because a lot of people think you can go to like angel investors and people like that, and they don't give a fuck about any of that. The people who are going to buy your stuff like are directly going to sell their stuff to your people. And so if you want to do that ethically, obviously you got to like filter them out. But I'd say like, I haven't seen a ton of agencies that have sold, to be quite honest to you. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I've met many folks who sold their agency in the masterminds, but usually it's those two things. Is you got to have like systems and processes, and there has to be a strategic reason for your acquisition. But if you do that, like 2 to 3 is pretty typical. Having said that, there's different business models that are like go more and less. Like, I've seen software companies. It's not unusual for software companies to get 20 times their multiple, because for whatever reason, like, people love buying software companies. Like Alex Becker talked about just the valuation of his company. If it's doing 20 million, he could sell it for 200 million, because that's just what software companies go for. But if those two things, like if I was actually looking to sell my agency, to like actually, put that like yourself in those shoes, the first thing I would do is figure out how to like get rid of myself entirely from the system, with systems, processes, and people, and eliminating things that don't need to be there. And then I would find out like who basically would double or triple their investment by acquiring my agency. But usually, by the way, this is just my experience, Zach, by the time you actually get your agency to the point where it's sellable, it starts to run itself, and it starts to be fun. And suddenly you don't want to get rid of it anymore, because now it's like it's not hard anymore, right? The biggest reason we usually want to sell our shit is because it's making us miserable, and like we're constantly taking phone calls and meetings and answering clients and why this and why that emails. And when you go through the process of systematizing it, now all of a sudden it's run through virtual assistants and processes and systems and all that kind of stuff. What ends up happening is you're like, oh, now it's an easy business. Now I could own this, right? Because it's like I don't really have to do anything, right? Like our business now, I'm not saying I got it all figured out. There's still things that we could systematize and stuff deeper, but like I can go to the beach whenever the fuck I want, and I do, right? So like there's no real reason to sell that business. It's actually kind of fun. So that's all I got for you guys on the questions, unless you got any more. Just a quick little announcement for those of you guys who missed the beginning. We are doing the Loom workshop, and I want to help you guys get out of this energy inefficient way, which I call modern day digital door knocking, which is send 10,000 outreach messages, get 5% of people to respond, book some appointments, do hundreds and hundreds of booked appointments so you can get 5 or 10 clients. And instead, I want to help you guys go, like, just throw a poster and ad out there, have people come to you, have a little 30-second conversation, send them a video, and then it becomes Stripe notifications, and I'm in. And it's better for the clients, it's better for you, and it's more energy efficient, and you can actually spend more time serving the clients. We're going to be jamming about that next Wednesday, January 11th. I have about 3 to 4 spots left unclaimed, so I'm going to do some announcements until those are full. If you guys have been thinking about going phoneless. I think this is the single biggest change you'll ever make, and I've made the offer like seriously irresistible to the point where I'm actually giving it away financially. But I love working with you guys. This is pretty fun to me. I enjoy doing this stuff. But we're gonna help pimp your offer and make it so your whole system can be done phoneless acquisition, and then you guys can focus on not only having like your sales be easier, but like spending more time on actually fulfilling or bringing in a fulfillment manager and remove yourself entirely for those of you guys who want to do that. And it's just a really cool process. I think it's. I wish I had known this years ago, but the last 3 years in our agency, this is how many sales calls we've done. 0. And we've acquired a whole bunch of clients, as many as we've wanted to. I've probably grown this agency slower than I've grown past iterations, mostly because I just want to hang with my kids. I got young kids, for those of you guys who can appreciate that. Like, I just want to read them books and play with them and stuff like that. But for the most part, like, you can easily acquire, like, with this stuff, anywhere from like 5 to 20 clients a month. And for most of you guys, that's more than whatever you'd want to do. 5 to 20 clients a month. By the way, if you got a $1,000 to $10,000 a month service, you'll hit $1 million per year run rate within 6 to 12 months, even if you start at absolute zero. And it works for you guys even if you've never sold this way before. As long as you've got a niche, like it's clear who your stuff is for, and you got a service that works, we can sell it through Loom videos. So if you're interested in that, I'll post some details down below. And don't wait, because we're almost full on that. I'm doing 12 spots total, and I think 3/4 of them are claimed. So if you guys are interested in that, or you can just shoot me a message, and I'll send you some details. And that's all I got for you guys. Much love. May the force be with you.